So, you got your first shot, and you're feeling great. You're on top of the world, halfway to full vaccination. Then, you start thinking about that second shot, which is a little less fun. You don't feel so great for a day or two. And it's that side effect that's apparently causing some people to skip that dose entirely.
You may have a high level of protection after the first dose, but that protection drops off very sharply in a few weeks.
And remember when everybody was talking about flattening the curve? Well, it's clear that Oregon needs to do that again. My question is, do we really have to shut down restaurants to get there? Here's the story.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. Thank you for being with us. No, the world did not skip ahead an hour. You're thinking, did we change the clocks again? Did nobody tell me about this? No, it is still 5 o'clock. Yes, this is the story. We're usually on at 6, but the president speaks tonight. We thought this was a good way to kind of introduce ourselves to some new people. Some new people who we hope will join this conversation we have on this show every night. Now, if you haven't seen us before, our newscast is a little different. Maybe a lot different, but the main difference is you. See, our viewers are the biggest part of this show. You tell us what to cover, we answer your questions, we read your comments, we respond to your criticism. Every viewpoint is welcome, and we take you very seriously because we take your role in this community very seriously. So please, send us an email to thestory@kgw.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram by searching my name, Dan Haggerty, or use Twitter in the hashtag #HeyDan. Let's get started. And we're going to start tonight with the big story, and it's all about why some people are skipping their second COVID vaccine. Now, first of all, doctors say, don't do that, okay? Get both vaccines. That's how they work. Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, they were designed to have 2 doses to be effective. But we know this is happening. We know people are not getting shot number 2. About 5 million people nationwide have missed their second dose, and that number includes a lot of people from here in Oregon and in Washington. There are a lot of reasons why someone would do this and skip that shot. Some people, they worry about the side effects. Others, they think that one shot is good enough for them. Kristen Severance looks into it for us.
I had a headache for about a day.
Mike Anderson of Vancouver didn't feel much after the first shot of the Pfizer vaccine, but the second shot was a different story. While many people feel sick or achy, Anderson was one of the rare few with a severe reaction.
And I woke up at 11 and I was in a cold sweat, just soaking wet. I thought, oh, here's the reaction, right? So, took off my wet clothes and tried to go back to sleep. And at midnight, I woke up, a little after midnight, and I was literally paralyzed, muscular, and in extreme pain.
Anderson went to the hospital where doctors gave him medication and monitored him. Months later, he's feeling better.
Wow, so you had a severe reaction.
Yeah. In fact, I'm with Kaiser. I'd had a hip replacement, so I was already doing some physical therapy, and the folks at Kaiser said they'd never seen a reaction like that. And neither... in my friend circle, no one has had that kind of a reaction.
And even after all of that, Anderson is more than glad he's vaccinated.
If you could, go back in time, would you still get the second shot?
Oh, yeah. 2 main reasons. One is my personal health. I'm diabetic. And secondly is I really wanted to see my family. So, because I've been isolated so long that it was really hard not to see my dad and my grandkids. Sorry.
Many people can relate to that feeling. But in terms of his reaction, again, Mike is not the typical case. Most people have a sore arm, feel tired, have chills or body aches. But that's still enough to scare off some people from getting the second shot. The Centers for Disease Control told the KGW vaccine team 8% of people in the U.S. did not return for their second COVID shot. That's more than 5 million people, and it's twice the rate that skipped their second shot when the data was first collected in mid-February. We're doing better than the national average in Oregon. According to the latest numbers, less than 5% of people vaccinated in Oregon did not return for the second dose after 8 weeks. In Washington, that number is a bit higher. 10% of people who received first doses are more than 7 days overdue for their second dose. Health experts say there could be several reasons for people skipping the second shot, from side effect concerns to thinking their first shot offers enough protection. Don Nolt is a professor of pediatric infectious diseases at OHSU.
They were never meant to be once and done. You may have a high level of protection after the first dose, but that protection drops off very sharply in a few weeks. The second dose allows that protection to be revitalized and to last a lot longer.
What does it mean when you experience those side effects or when you don't feel great after that second shot?
So having some side effects after the vaccine really is a normal reaction and shows that your body is building up protection. The immune system also causes inflammation, and that's why at the site of your shot, you may get a little soreness, and that's the immune system causing inflammation, which is a good thing.
If you don't feel sick, did it still work?
Yes, there are a lot of reasons why people may or may not have this or that side effect, but in the end, the protection will be very good.
As for Mike, he said most people won't feel at all like he did, and he'd still opt for the second shot.
I mean, I'm the kind of the one in a million that had this kind of a reaction. I wish I was that lucky in the lottery. But so for 99.999% of the people, probably not going to have more than a sore arm and maybe feel crappy for a day or so.
I'm Kristen Severance, KGW News.
Now, on that note, why don't we count our daily vaccines? We do this every day on the story at 6 o'clock. Let's do it right now. As we take a look at the numbers, more than 1.82 million Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose of the vaccine. The majority of those people have gotten their second dose as well, and it puts us at about 43% of the state's population in Oregon with at least one shot. In Washington, more than 3.44 million people have gotten at least their first dose, and that works out to more than 45% of Washington's population. Now, sometimes on this show, we do a little commentary. This is me last night. We were talking about restaurants and closures, and I was making the argument that restaurants should stay open because we have more than 1 million Oregonians who are fully vaccinated, and that we should allow them to safely support our restaurants. Now, the governor, as we know, does not agree with me. Yesterday, she's decided to close indoor dining in 15 counties, including Multnomah and Clackamas, because we have seen a spike in cases and hospitalizations, though our deaths remain down. Now, a lot of you supported my opinion. You wrote in, hey, keep restaurants open. We agree with you, Dan. Some of you, though, challenged it or thought that I was advocating for vaccine passports, which I'm not. Julie said, if people don't need to prove that they are fully vaccinated to dine inside, what's the point of opening restaurants for fully vaccinated people? It's the same as opening restaurants for everyone, except for it's not, okay? It's really not even close to the same thing, and here's why. If you get fully vaccinated, the threat of the virus becomes minuscule, especially if you have good overall health. Now, yes, there have been breakthrough cases, but let's put that into perspective. The CDC says 7,157 people have gotten COVID, even though they were fully vaccinated. But I really don't want to focus on that number. That number can be disputed. Instead, let's look at a number that really can. And that's the 498 of them who actually had to go to the hospital after one of these breakthrough cases, and the 88 of them who died. Though I do want to put a little asterisk next to that number, because 11 of those 88 were actually asymptomatic, and they died of something unrelated to COVID, but still get counted in that total because the virus was in their system. So technically, 77 people died from COVID, even though they were fully vaccinated. 77 people out of 87 million fully vaccinated Americans. Not only are the odds heavily in your favor in that equation, but they are exactly what we were told they would be. The vaccines promise to be, 95% effective about that? And that is about what we are seeing in this data. If you are vaccinated and you sit a few tables down from someone with COVID, it would be extremely unlikely that you would get it. Extremely. In fact, it would be unlikely for you to get it from your spouse as you shared a bed, let alone somebody who was sitting a table over. And if you did, there is a 0.0001% chance you will die. It may be even less than that, honestly, considering we don't know much about the 77 deaths, like how old they were, or if they had other contributing factors. So again, I ask, with those odds, with that science, why are we closing restaurants? Look, If you're not vaccinated and you're afraid of COVID, which you should be, you shouldn't be going out to restaurants during a spike anyway. I mean, why are we pretending that people don't know how to be careful? Grandparents went a year without a hug. We know how to do this. Now, if you are vaccinated and you're still afraid, that's fine. No one is forcing you to eat inside of a restaurant. Sit on the patio. Get takeout. Lastly, if you are not vaccinated and you are not afraid and you do not intend to become vaccinated, well, what's our plan there? We reported earlier this month that data showed that about 23% of people in Oregon and Washington are vaccine hesitant. And I can tell you from the emails we get, some people are much more than hesitant. Dwayne wrote me and said, Dan's position on the current state of the virus in Oregon is intellectually dishonest. He knows that there are a significant number of anti-vaxxers who will not comply with any requirements to be vaccinated prior to indoor dining, as well as a huge pushback by anti-vaxxers and right-wing people to require proof of vaccination to receive services. You're right, except for that first part, but you're right. Great point. I get it. But again, what is the plan? Keep closing restaurants until they come around? There is going to be a day in Oregon when vaccine lines disappear someday soon. You'll be able to walk right in, no appointment, and get a shot. It's already happening in other states. And in those other states, they are also seeing a spike in cases. When we closed restaurants before, one of the main reasons was because we had no safe way to eat inside. There was no safe way to do it. Nobody was vaccinated. But now we have a safe way, and more than 1 million Oregonians who can do it. How long will we continue to punish these businesses and these business owners because of people who refuse to get vaccinated, or because of people who are waiting to get vaccinated but aren't taking the safety precautions that we have been preaching and living by for a year? Let me know what you think. What's your opinion on it? Send me an email at thestory@kgw.com. Find me on Facebook and Instagram, or use Twitter and the hashtag HeyDan. Whoa, man. Legal mushrooms? Magic mushrooms in Oregon? That's far out. I mean, literally far out, like not for a while. Because first, the state board has to spend 2 years figuring out how to regulate psilocybin. That's next on The Story. Welcome back. This is a special 5 o'clock edition of The Story. You might be seeing us for the first time, and if you are, and if you're saying, I kind of like this, I think this is kind of cool. Well, we are on every weekday at 6 o'clock, right after nightly news. Please join us and engage. If you're seeing us for the first time and you're totally bummed out and you're like, this guy, what is happening right now? Well, your regular 5 o'clock news will be back tomorrow. That said, give me a chance. All right, a lot of people think I come across a little pompous at first kind of thing, but they realize in time that that's not really my thing. I mean, I grow on people. I'm like a fungus, but like a helpful fungus, like magic mushrooms. You might remember that Oregon voted to legalize those in November of last year. I mean, we didn't legalize them the same way that we legalized marijuana. It's not recreational. It's therapeutic. You'll only be able to use them with a licensed professional. You can't buy them at a store and take them home or grow them yourself or any of that stuff. But you might be asking yourself, who exactly is qualified to be a licensed professional for something like this? It kind of feels like a new job I haven't heard of before. And you're right. That's actually something the state is trying to figure out. And right now, we are in a 2-year development period. A state advisory board actually held its second meeting on this subject this afternoon. And Keely Chalmers tells us where they are.
It's called psilocybin therapy, treating conditions like anxiety and depression not with prescription medications, but with the active ingredient in so-called magic mushrooms.
It absolutely helped me.
It's the very therapy Chad Kuski underwent just shy of 2 years ago.
I've seen what it's done for me and you know, upwards of a couple hundred other veterans from the similar backgrounds as me is
Kuski served as a Navy SEAL for more than 18 years. He did 12 deployments. Now he's medically retired due to PTSD. Kuski says psilocybin changed his life.
This opportunity has given me the chance to begin the healing process, and with that increased awareness, having the ability to respond instead of react makes all the difference.
In November, Oregon created the first ever psilocybin therapy program in the country. Now, over the next 2 years, its rules and regulations will be developed by a governor-appointed advisory board. The board's mission? To develop an effective and equitable system for people to get the therapy safely.
And their primary focus at the moment is compiling and analyzing the volumes of research about psilocybin therapy from America's top medical research institutions to give their decision-making process a foundation on science and moving forward over the next 2 years.
The advisory board is in the research phase now. From here on out, it will be meeting about once a month, with subcommittees meeting more often. January 2023 is the deadline for the program to be up and running. So board members have got a while to iron out the rules as more and more research about magic mushrooms emerges.
A lot of the research that's coming from prestigious medical institutions across the country and around the world is really showing that psilocybin therapy shows real promise for people who are suffering from some of these different things such as depression, anxiety.
It's a great first step. And the more that we can get access to people who are suffering to these medicines, the more opportunities the community will have to see how effective they are when used properly.
Keely Chalmers, KGW News.
Apparently, NASA used to think Eastern Oregon looked a lot like the moon, so they sent a bunch of Apollo astronauts here to check it out. We'll dip into the KGW vault when the story continues.
Welcome back. You might have heard that one of the astronauts who flew on Apollo 11, arguably the most famous space mission of all time, has died. You probably know the names Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and you should definitely know the name Michael Collins as well. Collins is sometimes called the forgotten astronaut because even though he was on that mission, he never walked on the moon. See, Collins stayed on the spacecraft and flew it solo as it orbited the moon, while the other two did the moonwalk. Collins died this week from cancer at the age of 90. Now let's dig into the KGW vault. See, years before that moon mission, NASA astronauts came to Oregon to prepare. See, scientists, they were looking for a similar landscape to what the moon might be like, and they found it in Central Oregon. In the mid-1960s, NASA sent astronauts to our lava beds to kind of get familiar with the terrain and to test some of their equipment. We don't know exactly who was there, so it's not clear if any before they were famous astronauts actually made the trip to our state, but KGW crews got to tag along that day for some of the lessons.
But one of these writers has given you a fantastic tale. He calls his little booklet, A Tale of Violets, Three Sisters and a Bachelor. A few of the features that I want you to look at here, and we'll come back here, not to this particular spot, but to other spots nearby tomorrow, and get a little bit more appreciation of those, is to attune your eyes to pick out variations in the surface of the lava. Because if the maria on the moon are composed of lava flows, as many people think they are, and possibly basaltic lava flows, which may be something like this. When you're 7 miles up and just about ready to tilt the nose of that thing down and land, well, you'll be looking for some soft, easy country to land on.
Kind of interesting, right? I love dipping into the KGW vault. I know a lot of you do too. So if you have suggestions, it's a treasure trove down there. So let us know what you'd like us to check out. Use that hashtag HeyDan. I'm going to read a few of your comments when we finish the story after this. Again, if this is the first time you've seen the story, we're usually on at 6 o'clock. Thank you for sticking with us and giving us a shot tonight at 5. We kind of moved the time period we're typically on because the president speaks tonight at 6, and we wanted to give some people an opportunity to meet us if they haven't actually seen this show. And I'm just so pleased to have you with us. I usually read some comments at the end, things that people were saying during the show, and it's a lot of fun. Let's just open these up. This is one from Ed No, wrote in and said, pull the hook on the idiot Dan. I'm going to read a different one. I'm going to keep moving. Terry says, hey, Dan, can you tell me why we need to shut down restaurants, but big box stores like Costco, Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. have hundreds of people in it? Well, they all have a restriction of how many people they can have inside, and you're supposed to be socially distant when you're inside those big box stores. But I think to simply explain why restaurants kind of get a bad rap when it comes to these changes and why big box stores don't, it's because of masks. Wearing masks. There's a lot of science and a lot of people believing that the mask is what matters. So you have to take the mask off to eat, but you don't take it off when you're in one of those big box stores. So that's what they're gonna continue to tell you. Carolyn said 2 counties side by side, one in extreme, one in low. It is a little bit confusing, right? I mean, I live in Clackamas County, right near Washington County. I went in there today, and they told me the gym is open. I didn't expect it to be. Yeah, it's confusing, but we'll do our best to keep you up to date. In the meantime, that's the story for tonight. See you back here tomorrow at 6.